I want to talk to you about something that happened to me last night. Something that fundamentally changed me to my core. Something that rattled me so much that I felt compelled to make it my next video. So last night, I found myself just outside of the gaming store, just about to open the handle of the door, and everything in me got that fight and flight syndrome. And it shouldn't. And why it shook me to the core is because of the fact that it was in my own mind. I 100% got to see what it is that held me back from trying all things RPGs, all things video games, all things nerd culture, exploring this side of me that I knew was there for a really long time, but I actually physically got to see what it was that 100% held me back for so very long. And it scared me. It scared me so much that I wanted to talk about it, because if it did this to me, I know it's doing this to other people out there. I was going to the gaming store to learn the fundamentals of the game, to be able to see if it's something that I wanted to explore further. I'd seen a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I'm in my let's explore everything mode right now. But as I was about to reach for the door, I felt like the door all of a sudden was like a high voltage wire, where I had a moment of hesitation. I could 100% just walk away. I could make the excuse of I'm extremely tired. I've been working, 12 to 15 hour days. I could have made every single excuse to walk away, and I almost did. And my heart started racing as if it knew it was going to try something new. But I wasn't afraid of being a beginner at all. That wasn't what this fear, the heart racing, that voltage feeling, that's not what it was at all. What it was this internal monologue that was in my head. I was crossing an invisible threshold, let's just call it, where I was formally saying goodbye to kind of the life that I knew and stepping into this world that was completely new to me, that I now said, okay, I am making the move into the geek world. I am taking that commitment. And I want to kind of explain what I mean about that in this video. And what it really comes down to truly is the stigma around the nerd culture, around geeks, around being geeky and embracing who you are. And by doing this video, I'm sharing it from the standpoint of me being a woman, me being 51, me being kind of new to this world and starting to explore very late in life. I'm hoping to reach out to the person who is sitting on the sidelines, who is too afraid to try, who is perhaps at the point where they're afraid of ridicule, they're afraid of who's going to judge them, they're afraid that, this is not who they're supposed to be. And I'm hoping also that for the veterans who are out there, who embraced who you are, congratulations, first of all. I'm extremely jealous of you that you've had all these years to be in this wonderful world of magic and fun and make-believe, and I friggin' love it. I love it. I'm talking to you as well in the sense that, maybe you can relate. Maybe you can give some advice to the people who are on that threshold, who are too scared to try. But let's get into what I'm exactly talking about now. Just understand where I'm coming from is that I have navigated the finance world for about 30 plus years at this point. And I have negotiated multi-million-dollar deals along the way. I have managed portfolio funds in the tens of millions of dollars, in the 50s of millions of dollars, in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. So this is not something that came to me from a nervousness of, I don't know what I'm doing standpoint, that I am too afraid to kind of be out there to do the hard things. But I also recognize that I am coming to this from a standpoint of living for the last 30 to 40 years and possibly a lie. I 100% can look back and see all of the times that I wanted to embrace the geek world, that I wanted to try things like RPGs. I wanted to try video games. I wanted to go to the Comic-Cons and the fan expos of the world, and I loved watching people cosplay. Not something I would necessarily do because I'm just not talented enough, not because I think it's weird or anything, but I've always been the kind of person that loved that type of thing, watching Star Wars and Star Trek when it wasn't cool to do that. I mean, some people will argue it's still not cool, but hey, I always thought it was cool. And as a person who is now starting to explore this later on in life, in the last 1 to 2 years only, I will say that I have 100% leaned into my husband. He has been kind of my shield, my proverbial paladin shield, let's just say that, in exploring this world, in exploring the options and the game stores and the gaming centers and learning how to play and all of that. Last night was the first time I was venturing into this world completely on my own. And that is first where some of this came from. I didn't have him to be there to talk the language and be able to kind of be that barrier between me feeling like a complete idiot asking the wrong question or looking stupid kind of thing. I didn't have him there to kind of know the language and know what to ask and know what to do even. Not that he has completely embraced the nerd world either. There was a very long time that he didn't, but he got into Warhammer again quite a few years back. He's always watched from the sidelines. He's always read the books and all of that, but he really didn't step into it until, let's even say it, about 10 years ago. And he has always been that crutch for me every time where we've done something, where he took me out on a date night to get me to learn D&D, where we would go into, our local store, Comic Book Addiction, for instance. We would go into that store and then we would, browse through everything. He would tell me all of the background and the information. And I did find out for years he had secretly been reading and learning about all this stuff as well, and really didn't share that with me either. So in allowing us to kind of explore this together, he got to feel that he now belonged where he was supposed to be, as much as I have. As much as I have felt that joy, that childish joy that you get from doing something you absolutely love, like playing an RPG. And yes, I know I started out with the whole D&D thing and everything, but people in the comments have taught me that there's something bigger in the world than just D&D. Thank you. I love you guys for that. See, I'm a newbie and I'm learning and I'm bringing that into my conversations as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But anyway, to get back into it here, what happened also by me holding that door for that split second before I pulled it was that I realized in that moment that social media, that media in general, that politicians and echo chambers and all of that have done a phenomenal job at kind of villainizing people in this world. And what I mean by that is, if we think about it, and trust me, I am not in that echo chamber. I'm just the type of person who watches both sides of echo chambers because I want to be on top of both sides. I've always come to a point where I'm trying to always be the neutral center on conversations, on anything, as much as I can. I understand I have human biases, but bottom line is I've always tried to come to it from a neutral standpoint, and being neutral requires you to look at all sides. So because of that echo chamber, specifically on one side, I have seen the memes, I have seen the videos, I have heard the talk from politicians, from pundits, from, basically mom and pops who have been put into this kind of agenda to villainize, and I'm going to call it the blue-haired girl right now as one of them. You always see the girl with the blue hair, the glasses, she's the one protesting, etc. She's the one that is the villain to one side. And I realized in that moment that villainization of that kind of stigma very much aligns to this world. Because I did go into where I learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons recently. When we did that date night with my husband, we wanted to go there from a nostalgia standpoint and see, has anything changed over the last couple of years. And when I walked in there, there was a huge Magic the Gathering kind of tournament that was happening. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but when I was holding that door, I realized that there were blue-haired women in that room playing Magic the Gathering. And that must have imprinted in my mind for a moment. I recognized that this was the villain that they were using. That the woman who has embraced who they are and who is doing what they want to do is that villain. But it's not just her. It is not just that person either. It is also the sweaty guy, the morbidly obese guy that's sitting in a room gaming in the dark by himself that is, wearing a woman beater that has, mustard stains all over it. And there's takeout food containers all over his room that is moldy and dirty laundry everywhere. Yes, I know that there will be that type of person somewhere out there, but I will also say I have met that type of person who is not the geek either. So I will say that that's on both sides, but it is especially villainized by one side. So what I'm getting at is that by demonizing or villainizing or making part of society as kind of a scapegoat, whether you listen to that or not, it bleeds into everything. It bleeds into everywhere. You see the memes, you see the videos, you hear the talk, you hear the anti-woke agenda, etc. And it was in that moment, that opening of the door, I realized I was having an awakening. I was deciding to kind of choose one side of the battle, one side of the war, without ever signing up to be part of it. I hope that makes sense. I realized I was choosing to be part of the group that was going to be villainized continually. And I realized that, yes, there are a lot of people who are starting to wake up from that side of the echo chamber. And I kind of wanted to do this video partially for the fact that, validating that I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling because of this. And I wanted others to understand that if they feel this way too, it is valid for them as well. But I also wanted to kind of do it from the standpoint of, if there is somebody out there who is kind of waking up, who is starting to break away from those echo chambers, who is starting to realize that maybe it wasn't something that I really wanted to be part of, but it made me feel maybe special during the time, or it made me feel a part of something, or maybe even that talk kind of felt good for a little while. I don't know. But there might be some people out there that need that proverbial hand in the dark to kind of bring them back. And maybe my video will reach that person. Or maybe I'm going to get 1,000,001 bots in my comment that call me a geek and whatever. Who knows? But yeah, I have to admit, that bias was 100% in my head because of the fact that I did notice it. I needed to acknowledge that social media, that propaganda had worked so well that somebody who deemed themselves completely neutral absolutely still got affected by that commentary, by that rhetoric, by that villainization that is out there. And it almost stopped me from trying. It almost stopped me from going in and trying. And by the way, it didn't stop me. I did learn how to play. I did grab my first commander pack. Yes, it is kind of land-based, hence the druid. And by the way, I also found myself a pair of dice. There was a person in the comments that talked about how they have a dice for each kind of character. I play a bard in BG3, and this reminds me of the bard I created. So anyway, again, a little squirrel moment. I am back now. So yeah, with all of the years of kind of hiding who I was, I can say I 100% put all of those thoughts, those emotions, those desires, those dreams, I put them on hold. I put them in a vault. I locked them up and, kind of stored them away. But I also will say probably about 1.5 years ago, around the same time I started gaming, around the same time I started picking up D&D, I also started embracing the fact that, hey, I would like to get a little creative with my hair. And I ended up dyeing my hair half black and half red. Now, understand, I used to also rave for years, so having crazy colored hair was not something that was out of the ordinary for me. So this wasn't about me becoming someone who I wasn't really. This was about me going back to who I was originally, actually, by doing this. So by having half black and half red hair and fire engine hair, here's a picture of it, I was embracing exactly who I am and what I love, and it was fun. It was absolutely fun. But there's a weird thing that also happened to me, and it relates to my career. So when I got into professional settings, into group meetings, etc., I got comments from the men like, "Oh, you dyed your hair. Oh, do you like that kind of thing?" And I found it very kind of odd. I mean, who are you to judge what I look like? But I did get that feeling of almost instant ridicule, of demonization again, in a corporate setting, in a very PR, HR kind of way. And it's also odd that I also got a few people who came to me privately during that whole week function that would whisper in my ear, "Oh, I love the hair." It was usually from women, a couple of men, but really mostly from women. And yes, I am transitioning back to my natural color. It is not from that whatsoever. I will just say that having red and black hair is both an investment in time and an investment in finances as well, if you ever go into it. For me to continue that, it was 6 hours of my time every 4 to 6 weeks, and it was about $450 to $600 each time I got it done. So it became a huge investment, both in time and money, that I just decided was too much for me. If I had endless resources, would I continue to do it? Oh, hands down. I would be way more than just red and black. I'd be experimenting with a whole bunch of colors. But anyway, I will say that I even got that type of stigma being a person who is in the finance world, who has lived a professional finance career all these years. So it doesn't matter when you start, you still have this portion of demonization that happens. And I know I started talking about this at the beginning, the veterans, the people who have been playing these games for all these years. I am 100% jealous of you. I look at the people in the comments who are doctors and lawyers and finance people and all of that are at the gaming tables, who have embraced who they are and continue to do so. I look at people like Henry Cavill, who is so dedicated to the lore of different RPGs and so on, that he was willing to walk away from millions and millions of dollars with The Witcher to say, "I refuse to do this because you are not sticking to the lore." I love the fact that he is creating a Warhammer series because he is so invested into the Warhammer world himself as a player. I am jealous of people like that. I'm jealous of the Joe Manganiellos and the Deborah Ann Walls of the world, who get to live these amazing creative lives and who are 100% unapologetic for who they are and don't really care what anyone says about them, and who also try to share their love of the game as much as they can out there. And all those people are 100% proof that these villains in the echo chamber, the blue-haired girl with glasses who protests, the greasy guy behind the monitor, dripping with sweat and dirt and food and all of that. This is proof that that really isn't the way that this world is. But even though I know that, I still had that moment of flash in my brain that brought me there, that brought me to the fact that I am going to do this alone, and I am choosing to kind of embrace this way of life now. I am crossing that invisible barrier and joining the battle, I guess. And if I ever had the ability to time travel, to go back in time, whether it was to talk to my 10-year-old self to say, "Hey, just continue to grow up to be you embrace that goofy side that loves to play, who loves to read, who loves to feel like they belong in a magical world for a little bit of time when they're reading a novel. Or whether it be the kid who's in high school who has to be cool, who has to try to fit in because of the fact that it kind of feels like a survival mechanism to do that. To tell that kid, hey, do what you need to do, but don't lose yourself in it either. And then to look at myself as a young adult, whether they're 19, 20, 21, and say, don't just fall into this world of conforming. You're going to not have as much fun. You're going to end up having a whole lot of regrets. So if I was able to talk to my 19-year-old self, I would say, embrace it. Just dive in, have fun, try it. You're going to love it. And what's the worst that can happen? You walk away. You walk away from it, right? If it's not for you, it's not for you, then you walk away. But at least you tried. And yes, as the person, as myself, who is 51, who really probably wanted to get back into this 10 or 15 years even earlier than this, to look back and say, just try again. You're going to have fun. You're going to meet a whole group of wonderful people because, yes, that blue-haired girl with glasses screaming and protesting, she's a human. She has a human experience. She absolutely could be a lot of fun at the table too. But just give her a chance and don't let your own mindset, don't let your own thoughts stop you. So when I sat at that Magic the Gathering learning session last night, I will say a part of my old mask did drop away. I was able to say I embraced who I am and I am going to enjoy the adventure. The adventure of exploring, of trying new things, of doing the stuff that kind of I've wanted to do for so very long, but have had these social stigmas that have stopped me dead. I am looking forward to this new way of life, of feeling the freedom of being myself and meeting incredible people along the way and having adventures and having things that I can do with my husband. And yes, I'm going to also enjoy introducing my sons to this. I am kind of demanding it from a Mother's Day gift that they have to try the Stranger Things starter set. I am going to be their DM and they are going to kind of play with my husband. I think their girlfriends are even going to come along. Not necessarily on Mother's Day because they should be with their moms, but we'll try it another time. And I know that they have said, oh, blue-haired girl, blah, 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 themselves. I am hoping that this sparks that moment of love of the game as well, that at least even if they are in that mindset of being closed off, of not embracing who they are because of feeling like they're not going to belong or whatever the case may be, that maybe they too will have moments where they discover themselves much earlier than I did as well. And if you are new to this world or you're interested in jumping in or trying things, all you have to do is kind of explore the videos on YouTube. There's a lot of great creators on here who talk about Magic the Gathering, who talk about the D&D experience, who share their love of the game, who talk about role-playing games, not necessarily just D&D, but all different types. There's video game, creators out there as well. And there's other nerdcore kind of people. I think that's actually even a channel called Nerdcore. But there's a lot of places where you can explore, where you can go and try things yourself. And if you're a veteran, I'd love to hear the comments. I would love to hear your experiences of what you feel as well. And just understand, if I can't get to respond to it right away, I do read everything. I do read them. It's just finding time to be able to respond right now. I'm a little overwhelmed. And if you got anything out of this video, if you felt like a sense of camaraderie, that we kind of belong here together, I would love for you to like, subscribe as well. And with that, I know YouTube is just about to start introducing another video I want to thank you if you got all the way through, if you got this far. I want to thank you for being here. I would love for you to be recruited and part of the team. And yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in future videos.